Ghazi is what happens. Ghazi is what happens when you fucking let a YouTuber run wild.
I heard you had some not so nice things to say about me.
Oh.
I heard you had so nice things to say about my hammers. Uhuru.
Uhuru.
What your name is again?
Jackson.
Uhuru Jackson.
Uhuru.
Uhuru.
What's up, Uhuru?
Yep, you heard him, y'all. He's a Uhuru.
Through the crease and the cracks of the streets, struggling for some food and a bed to sleep, while trying to cause overthrow. I'm feeling weak, ideology buff. Who is Hasan Piker? Hasan Piker got introduced by the neoliberal/liberal news organization called the Young Turks, who is owned by his uncle Cenk Uygur. Notorious for being anti-union, Hasan, however, claims to be a socialist, despite all evidence points to being purely ideological and not material. And no, Hasan, not just because you're rich, though that doesn't help. Hasan, who is said to be the face of leftism, despite putting forward multiple pro-state, pro-colonialist, anti-black policies such as gun control. If you want to know why gun control is fucked up and racist as hell, you can check out my video, Gun Control Debunked. There will be a card at the end of this video. Hasan multiple times put forth false information, which seems pretty intentional in this case. His own audience even went and stopped him and pointed out how he was incorrect. And he overall just brushed it off by putting forward more false assertions. Shit, right-wingers did a better job of reporting this shit accurately than Hasan. Hasan has multiple times made this bullshit claim that Uhuru and Black Hammer are the same thing. Therefore, APSP would have to be a branch of Black Hammer or connected to it, which is just utterly false.
But it is the Uhuru movement, and the Uhuru movement is tied back to Ghazi, and the Uhuru movement is bullshit too. So if the African People's Socialist Party and the Uhuru movement are tied to one another, then, you know, I'm afraid I'm not going to trust the African People's Socialist Party either too much.
The truth about Uhuru. In actuality, Uhuru is an auxiliary organization whose creation was and is for the collection of funds to support the African People's Socialist Party, led by Amali Yeshitela in the name of reparations. It was not created or formed by Ghazi Kozo. In fact, the Uhuru movement is literally 18 years older than Ghazi, aka Augustus Romain. Uhuru being founded in 1972, while Black Hammer did not come into existence until February 2019, a full 47 years later. We know the truth. We know you're a motherfucking op. Hasan has hundreds of thousands of subscribers. You got like 5,000. Just admit it. You a Black Hammer operative. Dictating who is correct by sub-counter finances is smooth brain as my nigga. You could just look into this damn thing yourself and find out the truth. Also, op doesn't mean operative. It means opposition, like you became by trespassing my motherfucking house. Oh shit. Anywho, the reparations video happened in 2016, a few years before Ghazi got expelled from APSP.
Uhuru.
Uhuru.
What your name is?
Jesse.
Jesse, you owe me reparations.
Correct.
And I want it. When do I want it?
Now.
When do I want it?
Now.
And you gonna get it for me?
Yes, indeed.
The truth about Ghazi and Uhuru. Ghazi Kozo is the head of Black Hammer. But before that, he was appointed as the Secretary General of African People's Socialist Party. Allegedly, he was used as a tool of recruitment to bring in more queer Black folks. In the midst of his membership in African People's Socialist Party is when the notorious reparations video was shot. One thing Ghazi could exploit is APSP had a policy of colonizers never questioning the colonized people. Am I saying APSP isn't anti-Semitic like Ghazi? I don't honestly know. I've never been a member, but I can't blame Ghazi's problematic behavior on them in good faith. Every allegation of anti-Semitism that I could find outside of Ghazi was actually anti-Zionism, not anti-Semitism. As for the intersection of Ghazi and Uhuru, there's a few facts that are clear. Well, clearish. 1. Ghazi Kozo, shortly before his departure, had to release a self-criticism due to himself spreading misinformation.
Uhuru comrades, it's me, Ghazi Kozo, and I'm here to offer up a self-criticism for a grave contradiction and error that I did to the African People's Socialist Party. I sent out a memorandum from my office without checking it by my leadership, Chairman Omali Yeshitela, or any of the National Central Committee members of the African People's Socialist Party's NCC, the leading body of the party, did not know about this memorandum that I sent out. I put in that memorandum that all of those forces were anti-party forces. I added things onto them that made them look like they were antagonistic. I lumped in people that were actually antagonistic anti-party forces with people that just left the party because of innocent reasons and were not antagonistic towards the party. So I'm making the self-criticism to the party and to anyone that was on that list, that was leaked out, that was incorrectly put on that list, or had descriptions of them on that list that shouldn't have been there.
2. Gazi Kozo was either expelled or left the African People's Socialist Party shortly thereafter. Accounts differ. Afterward, when all the crazy shit happened, Gazi had an antagonistic relationship with his former organization, branding them a cult, which is not unfounded, but highly ironic, which were not only stated by him, but by other former members of APSP. Though it's questionable if Gazi was already manipulating those former members and/or spreading misinformation. Gazi recounts the cult-like structure that was assumed by APSP, from them not only having to request to see family, but social dynamics around the idolization and elevation of the leader Omali into a Christ-like figure. There are further allegations that Omali was highly exploitative of other black people within the organization, that Omali was misappropriating funds, within as much as to make sure that Omali had everything he needed and all his family were paid the fuck up, while other black members struggled to survive, including mothers not even being able to fix their broken air conditioner, while APSP is allegedly bringing in millions every year in donations alone. Gazi and other ex-members claim that the organization centralizes the white allies over the black members and provides receipts to back these claims up, that Omali and the white Uhuru members controls all access to resources, while other African peoples are denied agency. Afterward, by the next year in 2019, Gazi had been a part of the founding of a new organization known as Black Hammer. The Black Hammer Organization. Black Hammer was founded on February 4th, 2019 by 7 different colonized people with the stated goal of seeking liberation for all colonized people. Seated at the head of this organization was Commander-in-Chief Gazi Kozo, which would prove to be a fatal mistake, which that statement isn't even hyperbolic. Black Hammer seemed to do legitimate work at first, provided masks and resources to the community, as well as political education. But not long into its existence, it takes a sharp turn for the worse. According to accounts from former members, at some point, most, if not all, of the founders outside of Gazi had left the organization or were purged out. I don't know if this happened before or after the Anne Frank take went viral. But in March of 2020, he released a series of tweets calling Anne Frank a Jewish child killed in the Holocaust, a colonizer.
So yeah, Anne Frank was a white Jew. There's white Jews, there's African Jews, there's colonized Jews, but then there's white colonizer Jews.
Which in the context that she existed in not only made that statement ludicrous, but literally could not have got more disrespectful. As much as I like getting on white folks' heads, that was a what the fuck moment if I ever saw one. Due to online reactions, it seemed to become a centerpiece of their doctrine, as they had to completely transform from a leftist organization into a right-wing cult. Shortly after, Gazi seemingly used the publicity from the controversy to launch his Hammer City project and start raising money to build a settlement of sorts in the Colorado mountains, which was thwarted by POC Time Warren with them white documents and an armed male carrying seen too much pigment for his pale, bony butt cheeks to handle.
Oh my God, brother, you see that? Hide behind me. It's the colors. We gotta call the police.
Sir, can we get a translation into a white speak, please?
All right, my pigment deficient friend. Check it out. It means they didn't sign the paperwork in time. and they went up onto the property, and some Karen-ass neighbors saw them and then reported them to the police, which then got back to the owner what type of organization they were, and so they lost the chance to get that piece of land. Is that okay for your square ass?
Yes, thank you very much. That's very helpful.
Oh, I almost forgot. They had an arm standoff with a neighbor, too.
What?
I hope you're really liking and enjoying this video, getting some entertainment out of it, but also learning something. If you have liked it and enjoyed it, make sure to leave a comment down below. Smash that motherfucking like button, subscribe, and hit that bell so you can stay notified. And make sure to share this content widely. If you have a few extra bucks and want to help me keep the lights on and keep this content coming, you can support me on Patreon at Big Villainous. You can also support me at Big Villainous on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Spotify, SoundCloud, and the list goes on. And if you didn't know it, I make some hard-ass hip-hop, so take a second to check it out. All money is blood money. Got the picking president's hand bloody. All money, yeah, blood money. War for your gold, leaving children running. All money, yeah, blood money. Poppin' wicked murder, we find it funny. All money is blood. Anyways, folks give accounts of leaving the mountain malnourished and half-starved.
I would say when I knew I was in too deep and I could never go, I couldn't go back, was when we was on top of that mountain in Amber City. When that happened, and explaining that story, like, I was blindfolded going up on that mountain. They told me to leave my phone in the apartment, so I didn't have no phone, no nothing, didn't know where I was. And I was on top of a mountain for, I think, 4 or 5 days with not adequate food. Almost died.
Which led to them leaving Colorado and headed back to their compound in Georgia, where the abuse and brainwashing went on. Love bombing, public shaming, sexual assault, stalking, soul contracts, collecting social security numbers, false allegations against members, calling ICE, the police, probation officers on members, all the way to holding individuals hostage at gunpoint. The Black Hammer compound had degraded into a house of horrors, which finally culminated to the raid on their headquarters about 6 months ago.
Fayetteville police responding to the subdivision Tuesday after receiving a 911 call from someone saying they were being held hostage.
On July 19th, 2022. Afterwards, the police showed up and raided the house. When the police allegedly use a robot to enter the garage, there is a gunshot, and a young man is found dead due to what the police claim to be a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. Afterward, Ghazi and one other member was arrested for kidnapping, sodomy, and other grotesque charges. The real facts about APSP. Omali Yeshitela, formerly known as Joseph Waller, was the founder of the Petersburg SNCC back in the late 60s and early 70s. He, like many of the former SNCC members, claimed the lineage of the Black Panther Party in attempts to seek validation, despite never being a member nor being a part of the lumpen proletariat. All right, it's definition time. The lumpen proletariat is the criminalized faction of the working class, of the proletariat. I don't want to quote the exact definition because Marx has some bigotry going on, and he thinks that us, who are the lumpen proletariat, are unpoliticized, but clearly not. Ask the Panthers. In 1972, Omali founded the organization African People's Socialist Party and the Uhuru Solidarity Movement. The organizations would go on to open Black Star Industries, which is a chain of black-owned businesses like restaurants and furniture stores that seek to be the economic engine of a dual power structure. Dual power is complicated, but to keep it simple, it is building infrastructure and governance in opposition to the provisional colonialist government. They also opened many hubs called Uhuru houses. Through these programs, they have been able to maintain an organization and bump shoulders with notable figures like Huey P. Newton and Dead Prez. But what they are most known for is the small army of white folks across the nation showing up to every meeting, demanding reparations to be paid to them, while doing little to nothing as an org to help local struggles. Like what? Why are you getting my reparations for? As a group, their reputation tends to be only slightly better than Bob Avakian's RCP, which is another political cult. Now, I must be clear. Besides the claims of those who left with Ghazi, there has been no other claims I could find of abuse or misappropriation of funds. And Ghazi isn't exactly a reliable source. And the way many of the other former members spoke on it, a lot of critical information may have came directly from Ghazi's mouth. Unfortunately, I could not find a way to contact any former members involved. Though I know members of a Uhuru solidarity movement that left due to a now-deleted testimonial from two moms that were members of APSP, testifying to APSP raising money in their name that they did not get. But unfortunately, like I said, it was deleted, and so I couldn't see it with my own eyes. Though I trust the person who said it to be telling the truth. Though it is definitely not Black Hammer, I gotta be honest and say, I definitely know it to be a cult from my experience. I know multiple people who were in a Uhuru solidarity movement, including Prince Capone and Jesse from that now very notorious video. Uhuru definitely does that thing where they heavily police what members can and cannot say, even in their private life. I remember vaguely a few years back being invited to see AHOAMI speak at Washington University. When I showed up, it was sparsely populated auditorium. AHOAMI was sitting in the front row. Penny Hess goes up and introduces a Uhuru Solidarity Network and, of course, asks for donations. It's been years, but I remember after she spoke, they played a video that was meant to bring folks into Uhuru. It very much reminded me of that first Scientology video they show you before the real weird shit comes out. It still gives me heavy cult indoctrination vibes. There was a performance from some Jake-ass rapper who I will not say their name because I don't want to platform that buster-ass dude. And then AHOAMI spoke for about an hour or so. I'm sure there's stuff I've forgotten that happened during the event because a long time has passed. But afterwards, I sat down to dinner with AHOAMI and his immediate crew. And honestly, it was just weird. AHOAMI just seemed like some self-aggrandizing dude surrounded by arrogant white academics to elevate him. The story of all academics, though. This always left a bad taste in my mouth, but nothing they said or did seemed dangerous in a good or a bad way. Fast forward to July 29th, 2022. There was a coordinated raid on APSP 10 days after Black Hammer was raided, though for very different reasons. However, there emerges some unexpected connections. Allegedly, both organizations were receiving money from a Russian operative, Alexander Ionov. Accusations go as far to say they were funding election campaigns as well as propaganda dissemination through funding of radio stations, papers, and social media. However, Alexander Ionov's alleged donations is where the similarities between these two organizations end. APSP's raid was meant to silence them, and in spite of being a political cult and some funny money shit, they were raided based off the political rhetoric. And their political rhetoric is some of the most accurate analysis of the present system out there. Oh, what? You didn't expect me to say that? You expect me to say something else? Look, just because I don't trust an organization doesn't mean I shouldn't give them flowers where they deserve it. They have built basketball courts, businesses, and built a degree of sustainable infrastructure in spite of their indiscretions. Further, besides being soft on Russia, their analysis is super accurate when it describes the horrors brought by the U.S. Just like the solutions of dual power, their rhetoric is more on point than any of these YouTube socialists, I'll tell you that much. Am I saying go join their org and donate to their cause? Hell no, nope, never, that. Throw that idea in a motherfucking volcano. So why do I care? The reason I feel it's extremely important to recognize that these Degrassi activists are spreading misinformation is multi-pronged. The simplest reason is it distorts what's effective and what's a mess. It creates a false view of the material reality on the ground, which serves to allow the state to craft false narratives and crush movements, not just these movements, but any with real left-wing politics. Historical accuracy is important as hell. These lies also help push the false narrative that far-left systems and beliefs are unattainable. It encourages reformism over divestment, helping to spread defeatism and discourage radical action to this hyper-radical extinction-level situation we find ourselves in due to capitalism and white supremacy. And to be honest, it's not unusual for a foreign government to fund organizations that will destabilize governments they have contention with. It's literally right out the CIA playbook. That's what the U.S. has done to Vietnam, Iran, Pakistan, Syria, Bolivia, and the list goes on and on and on. It also doesn't mean every organization that receives funding is in cohorts. In fact, in this case, they were in active opposition to each other. As far as when it comes to APSP, it was the truth behind their rhetoric that is the stabilizing force. And if holding the US accountable for their crimes is enough to incite a revolution, maybe we need to question if the US deserves to maintain a global position. Shit, maybe ask if its existence is even justified.
I know, y'all mad I didn't talk enough about Hassan. I get it. That's what y'all tuned in for. I had to debunk him first. Look, it ain't my fault y'all following somebody that looks like a character out of Greece, bro. You can't be mad at me because the song confuses socialists with socialite. Bro, I mean, why you want to pick streamers that look like they're blowing on 90210? I have no clue. He fits better in with Paris Hilton than Marx, or UEP, or Mumia Abdul-Jamal. Be honest. Oh, and if you want one of those names that are ever going across the screen, that's my Patreon. You can be one of them too. The outro.
Get your next ever reappropriate, leave you there, we felt better.
You illiterate, the struggle, we the Rosetta. We the ones stoned eyes turning redder. Class war rewrite, lose your header. Fetch a green plan C, death white leather. All money is blood money.